Welcome to Dodger Stadium, where the 11-7 New York Mets try and prevent a sweep at the hands of the 11-7 Los Angeles Dodgers. Overcast, foggy day here in Los Angeles. Not something you see too often at Chavez Ravine. But it is the setting for a matchup between two of the most talented National League teams. Coming into the season, I would have said two of the highest payrolls. But since the Mets have been taken over and assumed a whole new philosophy, that is the opposite of being true for them. Still true for the Dodgers, and in fact even more so now that they've added one of the Mets' former highest paid players in Francisco Lindor. So we'll see if the New Yorkers can salvage one. They'll be trying to do it against Tony Gonsolin, who's been lights out this year. It's impressive that he is even better this year after going 16-1 last year. But his 1.23 ERA and 18 Ks in 22 innings has been among the very best in the National League. So Jeremy Pena will get us started and take a slider low. Each of the last two games, the Mets have led going into the later innings, and the bullpen has failed them as Pena is unable to check his swing. And so that's always a tough one, because it's one thing to say, all right, well, we're just getting off to bad starts, and if we just get an early lead, we'll be good to go. But the Mets have had plenty of early leads and plenty of late leads, and none of them have been able to stand up lately. As a whole, the New Yorkers have been struggling, losing 5 of their last 9, as Harold Castro strikes out as well. Castro filling in for Tommy Edman, who's getting the day off. Alonso swings over a splitter. The Mets just look lost right now. Hopefully they'll dial in pretty quickly. Their lead on Atlanta has dwindled to 1 game now as Alonso takes strike 3. Standings only mean so much here in the early days of the season, but still, better to be in first place than not. The one good thing the Mets do have going for them amidst this slump is Tommy Henry is taking the hill. He has been outstanding so far this year, having a 1.29 ERA over 21 innings. So the young starter that has some familiarity with the National League West, having some roots in Arizona. We'll see if he's going to show his familiarity by pitching well. It does not start for him in any kind of good fashion, though, as Miguel Rojas is going to take a 2-2 pitch and deposit it over the wall and left. That's a homer. 96 miles an hour off the bat. And that is not the start the Mets were looking for, to be sure. So before a lot of people have even navigated the Los Angeles traffic well enough to get into their seats, it's 1-0 Dodgers. No relief here for Tommy Henry. Or as Michael Scott once said, no rest for the sick. David Peralta stands in, hitting .471. But Henry is able to catch him off guard with a changeup and strike him out. So good get back there for the young Mets starter. Get his first out quickly and not let 1 homer become 2, or if nothing else, spiral into worse. Freddie Freeman's going to stand in and foul away a changeup that was so low on the pitch graphic that almost went off the screen. So how Freddie made contact on that, I mean, given his plate discipline, I'm really surprised he swung, but the fact that he made contact was maybe more impressive than anything. 2-2 to Freeman is chopped up the middle. Henry's got it. Fields is positioned well. Throws over to Alonso easily. And Freeman is retired for the second out of the inning. There's no let-up in this Dodger lineup as Mookie Betts stands in. Betts has not gotten off to a great start this year, only hitting .236. But the 6-time All-Star is always on the verge of breaking out, it seems. But he will take a called third strike there. Good fastball up in the zone. So Henry pitches well after giving up a solo homer to lead off the inning to Miguel Rojas. And with that, it's 1-0 Dodgers as we head to the second. Francisco Alvarez swings over a splitter. I don't think the Mets have made contact with a single one of Gonsolin's pitches so far today.
2-2.
So hopefully they'll dial in as Alvarez takes a curveball outside. Alvarez is behind the plate today. He's oftentimes a designated hitter, but Buck Showalter decided to have Will Smith take the day off behind the plate, have Alvarez man those duties. Alvarez is going to take a 2-2 splitter, hit semi-deep to center. But Johnny DeLuca, rocking number 89, the first number 89 in Los Angeles Dodger history, is going to make the play. So Alvarez is retired. Brett Baty will stride to the plate, hitting .275 so far this year. Coming into the season, it was unclear kind of where he would fit in. Versatile young player, but also might be passed over in certain spots. But his versatility and his left-handed bat have seen him be a valuable part of this early season for the New York Mets. And certainly, from talking to management, they have big hopes for him in the future. So I don't think Brett Baty will be going anywhere anytime soon. So he's going to foul away a 3-2 curve. And there goes Brett Baty. He unloads on a 3-2 curve. This one stays up, and that baby's way out of here. With the overcast skies, it was hard to even track it. But Baty knew as soon as he hit it that it was long gone. 103 miles an hour off the bat, nearly 400 feet. And that's what the Mets needed, the kind of response they were all looking for after giving up that homer in the bottom of the first, should say. So Baty answers, and it's 1-1. Yeah, Gonsolin was pumping those curves in. And I think this one had the effect of allowing Baty to kind of calibrate his timing, and that one stayed up and it got out in a hurry. Another curve follows very quickly thereafter to Will Smith, and he is frozen by it. So the former Dodger strikes out in his first plate appearance back in Chavez Ravine for the second out of the inning. Leody Taveras will waste no time slashing one to center, but DeLuca is there and he handles it. But the damage is done as Brett Baty tees off on a 3-2 curve and knots a score at 1 as we head to the bottom of the second. Andy Pages, another rookie with an interesting number. He's number 84. He'll lead off the inning. He's playing designated hitter today, and he'll strike out on a changeup. It's a good pitch there by Henry. His methodical work continues. Miguel Vargas will stride to the plate. Vargas hitting .241. Second-year player out of Cuba. He's going to chase a curve low. Good block by Alvarez, and he'll complete the strikeout with a throwdown to Alonso. It's funny, for the Dodgers being such a high payroll and win-now team, they do have a good amount of playing time allotted to younger players. We got a couple rookies and second-year guys in the lineup. So perhaps in following the plan that the Golden State Warriors espoused a couple years ago of the 2 timelines, as Johnny DeLuca, one of those younger players, takes a walk. 2 timelines meaning let's try and contend, but let's also try and build for the future. Let's have veterans and let's have young guys and rookies. Didn't quite work out for the Warriors as they would have hoped last year, as Lindor, former Met who's been really struggling, does not waste time in making his former team pay. He's going to smoke a double up the gap on the first pitch he sees, and that's got to feel good for the one-time shortstop, now third baseman for the Dodgers. We'll see how long that change sticks, as he smokes a fastball that Henry, I think, would want back pretty immediately, and puts the Dodgers back up by 1 run. But as I was saying, Dodgers, they haven't necessarily claimed to be doing anything of the sort, but all the playing time they're giving to young guys does make you wonder if that kind of too timelines mentality is what is kind of driving them. Omar Navarez, another former Met, is going to swing through a fastball, but as we've said earlier today, the damage has been done. A walk to Johnny DeLuca and a double by Lindor plates a run for the Dodgers. It's 2-1 Los Angeles heading to the third. Evan Longoria will lead off the Mets half of the third and line a fastball foul before taking another fastball and flaring it to left. Can of corn for David Peralta out there, and he puts it away without any issue. Adolis Garcia will round out the Mets' first trip through the lineup here. As we've said before, Garcia has a lot of pop in his bat and has displayed that on a couple occasions so far this year, but hasn't done much else, only hitting 136 in the early going here. And sometimes that's just how it's going, as he smokes a fastball to center field. Good contact, squared it up well, but hit it right at a guy. DeLuca puts it away, and Garcia's retired. And you hear so much about exit velocity and launch angle, and that's really all these guys can control at the end of the day. And on that one, Garcia did everything he could as Pena stands in, takes a splitter low. Garcia did everything he could to produce a good outcome. It just didn't happen for him as Pena strikes out. Splitter seemed to fool him there. So we'll head to the bottom of the third with the score still 2-1 Los Angeles. Miguel Rojas will lead us off, and I don't know if his goal is to hit for the cycle, but he may just, as he's going to hit one down into the right field corner. Beatty tracks it down and does keep Rojas at second. The way that ball kind of rattled around there, it showed signs of potentially being a triple, but Rojas is going to be held at second with his 5th double of the year. The Dodger leadoff man haunts Tommy Henry again, and the home team is in business here in the bottom of the third. David Peralta will check his swing on a slider outside and then pop one to right. Not deep. Beatty's getting under it. Rojas is tagging, but he won't be able to go anywhere as that ball wasn't hit nearly deep enough. So nice out for Henry there, keeping Rojas planted at second. But it doesn't get any easier as Freddie Freeman will stride to the plate. Freeman went 2 for 4 yesterday, but swings over a changeup here. And I will say, hopefully this isn't the announcer jinx kiss of death, Henry has had Freeman off balance so far today, it looks like. He's gotten him to swing at some pitches that you would not normally see Freddie Freeman taking hacks at as he fouls away another pitch. The 2-2 is blooped in between second and right, but Castro's going to be able to make a play and haul it in. So another big out there for Henry. Freeman is retired, and Rojas has to stay put. The inning will fall on the shoulders of Mookie Betts, who takes a big hack at a 3-1 fastball, ended up going down to a knee. So payoff pitch to Betts here, big one for Henry, and that one is laced up the middle. That's a base hit. Rojas will come around and score. The throw to the cutoff man, not nearly in time to get Rojas. Betts almost took Henry's head off there. 109 mile an hour up the middle. Not a bad changeup. Kept it pretty low in the zone, but Betts apparently was able to adjust to it. Didn't fool him at all. And the Dodgers have their 3rd run in as many innings. And it doesn't get any better as Andy Page is going to line one to left. That one was screaming off the bat. 104 miles an hour after Betts came through with 108, 109. And sorry to say, but it looks like it's time for the Mets to get somebody going in the pen. Henry has been missing some bats here in the first couple innings, but when he is not missing bats, there is some loud contact being made. As Miguel Vargas lines one to, oh no, he lines one to right. Brett Beatty misplays it. This is a disaster. That's going to go all the way to the wall. Both runs will score. Vargas over to third, and what started as an unfortunate series of events has very quickly become a disaster for the New Yorkers. It's 5-1 Dodgers here in the bottom of the third. Some generous scorekeeping there as Vargas is credited with a triple. It really was just a single that Beatty completely botched. There was no reason that needed to be a triple. But it's 2 runs in either way. And the Mets are staring a mountain down in the face here in Los Angeles. DeLuca fouls one away. He walked in his first at-bat and then came around to score on Lindor's double. He'll sky one to center. Taveras has it all the way. And he will mercifully end the inning for the Mets, but not before the Dodgers had 3 more runs and take a 5-1 lead as we head to the 4th.
Did he go?
Harold Castro will get us started. And successfully check his swing on a splitter outside, moving the count to 2-2. Curveball misses outside. Oh, and hard to tell if that was a changeup or a splitter, but either way, it was buried in the dirt, and Castro was fooled the whole way. Looks like it was a splitter. Would have been ball 4, but instead it's strike 3, and Castro is retired.
That's the ball.
We see the Dodgers doing their version of a 2023 shift on Alonso. We got Miguel Vargas, a second baseman, playing as close to second base as he can,
2-2's the count.
while third baseman and shortstop kind of playing more traditional positions as Alonso chases a pitch way up in the zone and follows the lead of Harold Castro by striking out on a splitter out of the zone. So not the response the Mets were hoping for here, as Alvarez strikes out as well. We head to the bottom of the 4th. The Dodgers in command. It's 5-1 Los Angeles.
Leading off for the Dodgers, the third baseman,
Francisco Lindor
Lindor.
got some very quick revenge on his old team in his last at-bat, doubling on the first pitch he saw. He's only hit an 8th in the lineup, and that's because if you're just tuning into the Dodgers for the first time this year, Lindor has been mired in a terrible slump pretty much all season, quite frankly until his first at-bat tonight. Been hitting under 200, been struggling at shortstop, so they moved him to third base. Not been the start that he or the Dodgers were hoping for, as Tommy Henry retires Lindor on a fly out to center. But as is always the case with baseball, we got a long season ahead of us. The Dodgers are still in decent shape. They're 11-7 right now and winners of 3 in a row, so it's not as though their season is in any kind of dire straits, as Navarez will fly out to Beatty and right. Lindor has been working with the hitting coaches, putting extra time into the batting cages,
Take your base.
as Miguel Rojas takes a walk, and honestly that might have been in Tommy Henry's best interest after he homered and doubled in his first 2 at-bats. So we'll see if that extra work will pay off for Lindor,
2-1.
despite the controversies that he endured in his time in New York, as Rojas takes off for second on a swinging strike by Peralta and is going to make it down there with his 6th stolen base of the year. He is just all over the place today against the Mets. Despite the controversies that Lindor endured, you do root for the young man and hope that he's able to get everything sorted. Henry is able to get through the inning by striking out Peralta, so the first inning in which he does not surrender a run is on the board. And if nothing else, good for him to potentially bank some innings that our bullpen doesn't have to. So we'll head to the 5th with the score still 5-1 Dodgers. Brett Beatty, the man responsible for the Mets' only hit of the day, which was a home run in the second inning. He's going to go down swinging. Yet another strikeout for Gonsolin. Will Smith will stand in and very quickly offer at a splitter outside that he tried to check his swing on and could not. The Mets just seem completely lost against Gonsolin. And it's no surprise. He's one of the best pitchers in the major leagues and has been for a couple of years now. But paired with a disastrous pitching performance, not looking good for the New Yorkers here today as Will Smith strikes out. Mercy. Let's see if Leody Taveras can at least make contact. His first swing, he cannot. He swings through a fastball. And he struck out 3 times yesterday. And, yep, sure enough, he strikes out. Gonsolin strikes out the side. The Mets are in tatters right now. It's 5-1 Dodgers heading to the bottom of the 5th. Tommy Henry is about to throw his 100th pitch as he gets Freeman to pop it up. So this will probably be his last inning. I can't imagine, especially without him pitching very well, that Buck Showalter's too keen on stretching him out as well as he has pitched in the early going this season. So we'll see, but very likely this is going to be Henry's last frame. And I think this outing will go down as one big what if. He pitched well to a lot of really good hitters. Oh no, so grounder to second. Harold Castro boots it, and boy, isn't that just a sign of the times. E4 is the scoring decision. Castro, routine grounder he couldn't handle. And fittingly, we were just saying how Henry can look back on this start with probably a whole lot of what ifs. You know, as well as he pitched against the likes of Freddie Freeman, and as many times as he had maybe 2 outs, and I'm going to get out of this jam, it was always just kind of a day late and a dollar short. He does get Miguel Vargas to pop up there, so Castro's error goes for naught. And Henry gets through 5, which, given where he was a couple innings ago, is actually a decent accomplishment. So we'll head to the top of the 6th, with the Dodgers still leading 5-1. Evan Longoria will lead us off and foul away a fastball. He has seen a lot of fastballs today, especially relative to the amount of off-speed pitches that Gonsolin has thrown other hitters. So interesting decision there. Maybe Gonsolin's worried he's not going to be able to fool one of the Mets' few veterans. But he is able to fool him nevertheless. Slider gets Longoria to chase. And Gonsolin has retired another New Yorker. Adolis Garcia will stand in. And good timing, just missed the splitter. It's kind of strange. Swings over a slider there, so he's retired. Jeremy Pena stands in. He struck out both times. You know it's going poorly for the Mets when they're striking out seemingly every single time they step to the plate, and yet the opposing pitcher doesn't have that high of a pitch count either. As Pena swings through a fastball that he can't check his swing on, and then takes a big hack and misses. The Mets side is retired again, and we're off to the bottom of the 6th with your score still 5-1 Dodgers. Jeff Brigham will get tabbed. He has not seen much work so far this season, but the one inning he did see was semi-disastrous as he gave up a couple runs and has an ERA now of 20.25. So hoping to make some corrections here as he faces the bottom half of the Dodger lineup. Johnny DeLuca is going to chop one right back to Brigham, which the reliever handles easily. And so he gets a first out quickly here in the bottom of the 6th. Francisco Lindor next up. He's going to line the first pitch he sees to left, so the Dodgers certainly not wasting any time diving into Brigham's repertoire. Patience is not the name of the game as it stands right now. But Lindor is retired as Garcia puts that one away.
1-2.
So Omar Narvaez stands in as the last hope for the Dodgers' 6th. Swings through a fastball. And pops a little slurve right to Longoria at third. He handles it without too much trouble. And a nice 1-2-3 inning for Jeff Brigham. So that's what you want to see there. We'll head to the top of the 7th with the score still 5-1 Dodgers. Heading to the 7th. Joey Cantillo is a lefty arm getting loose in the Mets pen. I think we're going to see him sit down and see Sam Hentges start warming up. Hentges has a little more stamina. Cantillo pitched yesterday, so I think Buck Showalter doesn't want to necessarily bring him in if he doesn't have to. Dennis Santana will also loosen in the pen. Just a quick box score check here on the dominance of Gonsolin. He has struck out 14 through 6 innings. And he's got a heck of a streak going right here. It's at least at 6 consecutive Mets, and I think it's probably closer to 7, 8, or even maybe 9 consecutive strikeouts. In comical fashion, Harold Castro puts a stop to the streak by hitting the ball approximately 0.5 feet in front of home plate. In fact, I don't know if you can hit the ball any shorter without it being foul. So at least the Mets made contact. But suffice to say, Castro is retired for the first out of the 7th. Gonsolin just now creeping over 100 pitches as he misses low to Alonso and misses inside to Alonso. So all jokes aside, you hope maybe the Mets are starting to at least see his pitches a little better. It doesn't mean they're going to start lighting him up, but it would be nice. Francisco Alvarez is going to put a stop to any hopes of a rally, though, with a grounder to third. Lindor handles it over to Miguel Vargas at second, on to Freeman at first. And the Mets are out of the inning just as quickly as it began. We head to the bottom of the 7th with the score still 5-1 Dodgers. Miguel Rojas, who's been a real nuisance for the Mets today, is going to ground one to short. And mercifully, he will be retired. He'd been on base all 3 times. Homer, double, and a walk, and then with that walk, he stole a base. So Jeff Brigham getting him out there is no small feat. But the good times are going to end for Brigham as David Peralta is going to sit back on a slider and tee off on it into the right center field bleachers. That one is way out of here. The Dodgers add an insurance run that they probably don't need, but will always certainly take. And the home side now leads 6-1. Brigham was looking good, but that slider was way too over the plate. And Peralta certainly enjoyed the view after smoking that one 431 feet. Freddie Freeman will follow.
2-1.
Take a fastball inside. As we mentioned with regard to Lindor's struggles, and really anyone's struggles, it's so early in the season that you can't put too much stock in anything that's happening. As Freeman laces one to right, that's going to be over Beatty's head, and that's trouble. Bounces off the wall. Beatty gets it in, but Freeman will have a double, and Showalter might have to go get Brigham. As good as he looked through the first inning and a half or so, the Dodgers seem to have figured something out.
Your attention, please.
And sure enough, Showalter will tab Dennis Santana. He also has struggled in a very small sample size so far this year. But might as well get some arms stretched out and get them some experience here in a game that may be too far gone anyways right now. Mookie Betts is going to ground one up the middle. That's going to score Freeman. And Betts has his second RBI single of the day. But as I was saying, the season is so early on still that while it's tempting to say something like, oh, the Mets need to do some soul searching as they lose their 3rd in a row and now fall to 11-8. But really, it doesn't have to be that deep. This is a young team who obviously coming into the season had high hopes for fulfilling the promise that they have with all of these young players, but also knew that they were working from a financial perspective that normally doesn't lend itself to great success right away. As Miguel Vargas smokes one down in the right field corner, the Dodgers will get another run in. It's 8-1 Los Angeles, as Vargas has his 4th RBI of the season. So there's no need for the Mets to panic. This series was a litmus test, you know, getting the chance to stack up and see where they fit with one of the National League and Major League elites, and they failed that test. But one could also look at the first 2 games in particular and say they were quite literally a couple outs away from winning both. Santana does get Johnny DeLuca to swing through a slider and get out of the inning. So as we head to the top of the 8th with the Mets trailing 8-1, I don't think there's a need to be slamming a panic button. It also doesn't mean that anyone has to be happy about what's going on as Beatty lines one to right center. And, you know, Buck Showalter and his staff and, you know, the players themselves, they can self-assess and they can maybe just, you know, say, hey, look, we need to spend more time looking at film. We need to spend more time in the cage. We need to show up earlier for batting practice than we have been. Whatever it might be. Could be a myriad of things.
2-2.
But they want to win just as much as any of the fans want them to. And, you know, this is their livelihood. This is how they've made a name for themselves in so many ways in the professional world. So I have faith that they will figure it out as Will Smith fouls a couple pitches off. But no doubt it is frustrating to experience, as New York City as a whole, but particularly Queens, is really pained for a winner here. You know, last year's team showed so much promise, won over 100 games, and flamed out of the playoffs. Will Smith is going to work a walk. Good at bat for the former Dodger. And that's going to spell the end of Gonsolin's day. He'll finish with 14 strikeouts in 7 1/3 innings as he gives way to Evan Phillips. But yeah, I mean, you know, last year had so much promise and it fizzled out so quickly in the postseason. And then with the team turning over so many players as Leody Taveras grounds one to third, Lindor handles it well, flips to second for one, relay to first, not in time. Taveras runs well, so he's able to keep the inning alive. And actually, it wouldn't surprise me one bit if we see Taveras take off here as well.
2-1.
Dodgers don't seem too concerned. But the Mets will get there. I think they believe very strongly in the group that they have. And while the decisions made by Darren Kramer to completely gut the team of their payroll, while that was obviously not something, as Longoria swings through a high fastball and Leody Taveras takes second, while that was not something that anybody anticipated or was too keen on experiencing in the New York area, one of the big kind of stressors of this whole situation is as Longoria flies out to center to end the inning. This isn't waving a white flag or giving up on the Mets or turning them into, you know, one of the worst teams in history. This is a chance to do something different and maybe achieve just as much, if not more, success with it. So we'll see what happens. Lindor is going to victimize his former team again. Lace one to center for a base hit, his second of the day. So anybody who's despairing out there, I understand. And I empathize with the struggles that you have endured as a fan of New York Met baseball, as the waterfall keeps rushing. Omar Narvaez bloops a pitch 61 miles an hour off the bat, and it falls for a hit. But I assure you that this organization, this leadership, they do have a plan in place. And this team, as Rojas is retired on a fielder's choice, this team does have a certain spunk to it. And kind of a panache, a verve that Oh my goodness gracious. Garcia could have caught the ball and left, misjudged it, lost it in the fog, the haze. He certainly didn't lose it in the sun. And so what may have been a very close play at home, or maybe not even a play at all, instead becomes an RBI single. And the Mets just need to flush this one, I think.
That missed. That's the ball.
It's hard because trying to be optimistic as Freeman takes a walk. Trying to be optimistic and trying to say as many good things as I can about the state of the franchise, which I do believe is in a good place. And as I'm trying to say these things, I keep getting interrupted by bad things happening to the Mets. I wouldn't be surprised if the Mets actually tab a position player here if it gets any worse. Just because there's no need to waste another bullpen arm. This game is long since over. We'll see if Hentges can get out of it. He gets Betts to swing through a 1-1 sinker. This would be a big out to get here if he can get him, and he does get him. Fastball inside, good pitch there. So that was the out he really needed to get. Now let's see if he can retire Andy Pages. Pages is unable to check his swing on a sinker low. So Hentges is one pitch away from getting out of what could have been an extremely messy situation. I do have to say, though, amidst this positivity, the Mets' defensive performance today has been inexcusable. Beautiful backdoor knuckle curve there to freeze Pages and get out of the bottom of the eighth. Harold Castro booting a routine ground ball. It's going to happen. What are you going to do? But Beatty botching that single that turned into a triple in the bottom of the third. Adolis Garcia apparently just like not being that interested in fielding a fly ball and letting it fall for a single in the bottom of the last inning. That's the kind of stuff that a losing franchise does. And the Mets have done a lot to change their culture, but coming into this year, a lot of people associate, oh yeah, the Mets are losers. They're chokers. They're going to blow it again. It doesn't matter what they do. They spend a bunch of money. They spend no money. And there's historical precedent behind folks saying these things as Garcia works the count to 2-2. But changing the culture is so much about how you live every single day. And the Mets have done a great job, I think, of stringing together a lot of good days as Garcia takes a slurve low, but they took a step back today. And it wasn't just that they played poorly or that Gonsolin had him off balance, because that was true. But the team did not look ready to play. And that falls on the players and it falls on the coaches, and it has to get better because none of this big picture stuff, as Pena takes a fastball high, none of this big picture stuff about building a consistent winner, getting deep into a postseason, winning a World Series, none of that is going to happen as long as the team is botching simple details. Pena smokes one to center, 108 miles an hour off the bat, but DeLuca gets a great break on it and makes the play. So between bad luck and bad execution, the Mets have had a terrible day. Harold Castro swings through a cutter. I will say at least they've started to make more contact in the past couple innings. It hasn't led to a single hit. And in fact, thank goodness for Brett Beatty's homer in the top of the second, because otherwise the Dodgers might be one out away from celebrating a no-hitter. The 3-2 to Castro is low, so he works a walk.
Now batting, the first baseman,
Pete Alonso will try to keep the Mets alive as they are down once again to their final strike, with Pete fouling off the first pitch he sees. Slurve stayed up, but Alonso could not quite connect. Was just early on it and fouled it away.
2-2.
Fastball misses way high. Alonso fouls another one away. Count will stay at 2-2. I imagine Harold Castro will take second. Defensive indifference seems to be the the Dodger MO right now, and indeed it is, as Castro will take second. Alonso takes a fastball outside, so he's worked the count full. Castro will not get credit for that stolen base because of the defensive indifference. 3-2 to Alonso was smoked to left, and that baby's gone. So too late to hope for an actual comeback, but nice to see the Mets putting together some quality at bats here. It's never too late to set a tone for tomorrow. So Alonso with his 4th of the year. An absolute rocket off the bat. Well over 100 miles an hour and well over 400 feet. Yeah, he clobbered it. And it is nice to see, too, after Alonso missed at least one hanging pitch earlier in the at-bat. He did not miss it again. So it's a 9-3 ball game. Francisco Alvarez will take a fastball outside. And all of a sudden, Evan Phillips is about to throw his 40th pitch. You got to think Dave Roberts was not planning on that being the case the way this game was going. Alvarez is unable to check his swing on a slurve. So the Mets are once again down to their final strike. And Alvarez tees off. A fastball did not fool him. The Mets catcher unloads. It's 9-4. And I'm sure a lot of New Yorkers are ruing as Alvarez hits his longest homer of his career, almost 450 feet. A lot of Mets fans are probably wondering where the heck was this any time before there were 2 outs in the 9th, which is a fair point. But nevertheless, good to see some offense. And that is a thing, though. The baseball season is such a grind, and that's going to be the end of the day for Evan Phillips. He's not going to be able to finish the game out. So Daniel Hudson will come in relief. The baseball season is such a grind, and so many games lead into from one to the next, whether it's tiring out a bullpen in one game so that 2 or 3 games later they have nothing left in the tank, whether it's putting together good at-bats. As Brett Beatty lines one to center, that's a base hit. And so while it may be in vain for today's game for the Mets to be teeing off right now, it does mean something for their confidence coming into their next game and the way that they're picking up the ball and the fact that they have, after really struggling through the first 6 innings to make any kind of contact, the fact that they have hardly struck out at all since, these are all really good signs. Will Smith once again sees the Mets down to their final strike. But they live for at least one more pitch, and the Dodgers do have a couple guys, Phil Bickford and Jimmy Nelson, getting loose in the pen. So Dave Roberts, I wouldn't say that the Dodgers are probably very stressed right now, but nevertheless, the fact that they're even having to deal with this the way this game was going earlier is kind of crazy to think about. Will Smith will take high, so the count goes full. Beatty will be in motion here. And off he goes with the pitch. Smith lines one to left. That one's going to get down. Beatty is heading for third. He's going to get in there. So Smith has a hit. And the Mets just refuse to die. It's 9-4 still. Runners on the corners. Still 2 outs. Leody Taveras will stand in. He's unable to check his swing. So for what is probably the 8th or 9th time, the Mets are now down to their final strike. Taveras grounds out at the middle. That's going to get through. Smith will hold at second. Beatty will come home to score. It's 9-5 Dodgers. And what an incredible 2-out performance by the Mets here. It started with a walk to Castro. Then Alonso and Alvarez went back-to-back. And the Dodgers are going to have to go to yet another reliever as Alex Vesia is going to come in to face Evan Longoria. Longoria is going to fly one to right, and that's going to mercifully do it. The Mets string together, after playing 8 innings of some of the worst baseball you could ever see, string together an impressive rally in the top of the 9th that doesn't do anything to change the final result, but does certainly put a lot more respect on the Mets' performance. The final from Chavez Ravine is 9-5. The Dodgers do sweep the series. But encouraging signs late for the Mets bats as they head in to their next few games, hoping to get a spark here as April will turn to May before very long. As always, thank you for joining us. We'll see you again soon. Have a beautiful evening.
Here now is our final line score this afternoon. For the victorious Dodgers, 9 runs on 13 hits. No errors. They left 8 men on base. For the Mets, 5 runs, 6 hits, 1 error. They left 4 men on base.